Hello everyone, welcome to the session today. Welcome to Unacademy, India's largest online learning platform that gives you a world of courses, resources, content, live and recorded sessions to help you in your preparation for the CA Foundation and Intermediate examinations. Also, I'd like to welcome you to Crack CA Exams with us, which is a vertical and channel of Unacademy that caters to the students of CA Foundation and Intermediate in their journey and pursuit of preparation for the CA Foundation and Intermediate examination by providing top educators, quality content, and overall a great learning experience. So come, let's crack CA exams with Unacademy, India's largest online learning platform. Welcome to the session. Before we proceed, I'd like to introduce the educator in brief. Hello, I'm Prathik Gupta. I am a Bachelor of Commerce from Christ College, Bangalore University. I am an associate member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, an associate member of the Institute of Cost Accountants of India, an associate member of the Institute of Company Secretaries of India, and also a law graduate from Karnataka State Law University. I am currently a practicing chartered accountant and also a visiting faculty for CA subjects and an educator for CA students both offline and online. Prior to starting on my own, I worked with S.R. Bartley Boy & Associates, that is the Indian member firm of Ernst & Young Global in the Audit and Assurance Department. Then I went on to work with Ernst & Young India in the Mergers and Acquisitions Department, and then finally I went on to work with the Manipal Group in Bangalore as the corporate controller of their Indian entity as well as their German subsidiary located in Frankfurt, Germany. It was only after I got back from Frankfurt, Germany that I decided to start something on my own, and that gave me an opportunity to become an educator, which in turn has given me this opportunity to take this session for you young, fine and bright CA aspirants. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, and I hope you find the session useful. Anytime during the session, in case you have any questions, queries, observations or discussions to be made, please do not hesitate to drop in a line and I will take up the matter for problem solving or for discussion purposes, as the case may be, as soon as possible. Also, I'd like to draw your attention to the spelling of my name. My name is Prathik Gupta. It's Prathik. It's Prathik with an H, Gupta. Now, why I'm stressing on the spelling of my name is because a lot of people misspell my name, due to which they're unable to find my numerous number of sessions on the YouTube channel of Unacademy as well as the special classes on the Unacademy Learning app. Okay, so you can look me up by my name, which is Prathik Gupta, and to find the hundreds of hours of sessions I've taken on the YouTube channel of Unacademy as well as the special classes that I've taken on the Unacademy Learning app, which you could make use of in your preparation for the CA Foundation and Intermediate examinations. Alright, now like I told you, Unacademy caters to you in your preparation for the CA Foundation and Intermediate examination. It does so through three platforms: YouTube, Special Class and the Plus platform. YouTube and special classes are absolutely free of cost, but they provide to you an enormous amount of value and resources to help you in your preparation for the CA Foundation and Intermediate examination. Now, YouTube sessions are what you're watching right now. They're absolutely free, and you just need to go onto YouTube and type in Prathik Gupta to see my hundreds of sessions over there. Special classes are also free of cost, and they are available on an app known as the Unacademy Learning app. They are also free of cost, and they provide you an enormous amount of resources which help you in your preparation for the examinations. Now, coming to the Plus platform of Unacademy, the Plus platform of Unacademy is the premium platform of Unacademy, which is a payment-based subscription model and which provides various subscription packages for the various examinations. More about which I will tell you in the following slides. In this slide, I will tell you why I recommend and encourage you to become part of the Plus platform of Unacademy as soon as possible. The first reason why I recommend and encourage you to become part of the Plus platform of Unacademy is because of the daily live classes it conducts, where you get to chat with your educator, engage in discussions, ask your doubts, and answer polls. All this while the class is going on. Yes, you heard it right, all this while the class is going on. The second reason why I recommend and encourage you to become part of the Plus platform of Unacademy is because of the live tests and quizzes it conducts on a regular and periodic basis that help to evaluate your preparation, and also the regular mock tests and quizzes that it conducts to get a detailed analysis of your performance. The third reason why I recommend and encourage you to become part of the Plus platform of Unacademy is because of the structured courses it provides, where all the courses are structured in line with your exam syllabus to help you best prepare for it. And lastly, and most importantly, the reason why I recommend and encourage you to become part of the Plus platform of Unacademy is because of the unlimited access it provides, where one subscription gets you access to all our live and recorded courses to watch from the comfort of any of your devices. So, keeping all these advantages in mind, among many others, I strongly recommend and encourage you to become part of the Plus platform of Unacademy as soon as possible in order to enhance and accelerate your preparation for the CA Foundation and Intermediate examinations. Now, in the previous slide, you heard me say live and recorded sessions, live and recorded plus courses, live and recorded special classes. So if you're wondering where they are available on an app known as the Unacademy Learning app. So for all of you who have downloaded the Unacademy Learning app and are using it, I thank you very much. And I request your support in the future as well. For those of you who have not yet downloaded the Unacademy Learning app, I request you to go to the Play Store on your mobile phones, download the Unacademy Learning app, install the Unacademy Learning app on your phones, put in your mobile number where you will get an OTP, and using that OTP you can register on the Unacademy Learning app. It is as simple as that, with no lengthy or complicated procedures. So you might ask me, okay, I have downloaded, installed and registered on the Unacademy Learning app, so what next? So let me tell you that the Unacademy Learning app gives you access to all the live and recorded special classes that Unacademy has to offer to you to help you in your preparation for the CA Foundation and Intermediate examination, and it also gives you access to all the live and recorded plus courses that Unacademy has to offer to you to help you in your accelerate and enhance your preparation for the CA Foundation and Intermediate examinations. So keeping these points in mind, I request you to download and install the Unacademy Learning app on your phones, register on it using your mobile number and OTP, so that you can make use of the world of resources that Unacademy has to offer to you to help you in your preparation for the CA Foundation and Intermediate examinations. Okay, then this is an important slide. Like I told you, the Plus platform of Unacademy is the premium platform of Unacademy. That is a payment-based subscription model and which provides various subscription packages for the various examinations. So accordingly, the CA Foundation and Intermediate subscription packages provided by the Plus platform of Unacademy are as follows. The packages provided are for 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months and 24 months. The 1 month package costs you rupees 3,500. The 3 months package costs you rupees 8,750. The 6 months package costs you rupees 14,000. The 12 months package costs you rupees 17,500, and the 24 months package costs you rupees 21,000. Now please remember, all these are the listed price of the packages. So before you make the payment for the package of your choice, please do not forget to use the code Prathik to get an instant discount of 10% on the above listed price. I repeat, please do not forget to use the code Prathik, that's me, Prathik, to get an instant discount of 10% on the above listed price. The 1 month package will the discounted price of the various packages are as follows. The 1 month package will cost you rupees 3,150. The 3 month package will cost you rupees 7,875. The 6 months package will cost you rupees 12,600. The 12 months package will cost you rupees 15,750, and the 24 months package will cost you rupees 18,900. So you see, immediately you get a savings or discount of 10% when you use my code. Now, I personally recommend you to start off with the 12 months or 24 months packages for the following 2 reasons. Firstly, it is cost effective. If you compare the 1 month package cost with the per month cost of the 12 months or 24 months package, you will see that you're getting great cost savings almost immediately. And secondly, and most importantly, since the CA Foundation and Intermediate course is provided to you in one package, that is the 12 months or a 24 months package, a 12 months or a 24 months package will be highly beneficial to you as it covers the duration of both your courses, that is the CA Foundation and Intermediate, and normally it takes a minimum of about 12 months for you to prepare and clear the CA Foundation and Intermediate examination. So if you're getting a package that is 12 months or 24 months that covers the entire duration of both your courses, that is CA Foundation and Intermediate, at a very cost-effective price, I think that is a very good deal. But having said this, you're free to choose the package of your choice. But before you make the payment for the package of your choice, please do not forget to use the code Prathik to get an instant discount of 10% on the listed price. You can also make use of the no-cost EMI options available for the 6 months, 12 months and 24 months packages, just in case you do not wish to make the payment at one shot. The payment options available to you are internet banking, debit card and credit card, and also all the coins that you've accumulated by watching the special classes can be redeemed while making the payment for the Plus course. So keeping all these packages, these discounts in mind, and also the advantages I told you a couple of slides earlier in mind, I strongly recommend and encourage you to become part of the Plus platform of Unacademy as soon as possible in order to accelerate and enhance your preparation for the CA Foundation and Intermediate examinations. Let's move on. Now, like I told you, the Unacademy Learning app gives you access to all the live and recorded special classes. Here are the snapshots of few of the many special classes that I have conducted on the Unacademy Learning app, and which is there exclusively for the benefit of the students of the CA Foundation and Intermediate examinations. There are special class on Revision Test Paper, Sale of Goods Act, Indian Contracts Act, the Companies Act, Fundamentals of Accounting, revision on partnership accounts, revision on sale on goods on approval and return basis, revision on final accounts of entities, evaluation of inventories, revision on partnership accounts, admission, depth of partner, and many more. So I request you to log into the Unacademy Learning app, go to my profile, Prathik Gupta, and you can see the hundreds of hours of special classes there on varying topics, which will help you in your preparation for the CA Foundation and intermediate examinations. Also, here are the links to few of the many special classes that I have conducted on the Unacademy Learning app. You can click on these links or copy and paste these links on your browser to take you directly to the Unacademy Learning app and my special class. There are special classes on Indian Contracts Act, the Sale of Goods Act, the Indian Partnership Act, the Limited Liability Partnership Act, the Companies Act, Basics of Communication, Accounting Concepts, Revision Test Papers, and many more. So like I told you earlier, please log into the Unacademy Learning app, go to my profile Prathik Gupta and start making use of all the sessions that are there that could benefit you in your preparation for the CA Foundation and intermediate examinations. Okay, let's start today's session, that is for the audit of CA intermediate students. This is the topic on audit in an automated environment. So far we saw the audit planning, audit strategies, audit environment, internal controls, frauds, and how to deal with it. And today we will see how to handle an audit in an automated environment. Okay, so any questions you have, please ask me and I will be happy to answer it for you. Okay, now what is an automated environment? Before we start off, please remember, with the automation of technology and the advancement of technology, these days audit is more a thing that is not just limited to pulling out the ledger, pulling out the bills and ticking each thing in red pen. Okay, it is more about doing a lot of analytics, doing a lot of using more and more of computer systems to do the audit and making the computer systems and information systems a part of what we do in the audit. Okay, so let's understand what is an automated environment firstly. Let us first understand the term automated environment. Automated environment means an automated environment basically refers to a business environment where the processes, operations, accounting, and even decisions are carried out by using computer systems, also known as information systems or information technology systems. Nowadays, it is very common to see computer systems being used in almost every type of business. So basically, like the name says, automated environment or automated systems means every aspect of accounting and auditing is surrounded by computers, and right from the accounting right to helping in decisions, it is all being done by computer systems. So today it becomes very important for an auditor to have an understanding and knowledge of the computer environment as well, because that will help him in his audit. And in case he does not have a adequate knowledge of the automated environment or the computer information systems environment or the computers environment, then the auditor might face it difficult to carry on his audit functions. Okay, so it becomes very important for him. Example, think about how banking transactions are carried out using ATMs, automatic teller machines, or how tickets can be purchased using apps on mobile phones, etc. In these examples, you can see how these computer systems enable us to transact business at any time and any day. In fact, technology has taken so much of control on our lives that these days we do everything sitting in our living rooms or sitting in our bedroom. We actually take decisions, and that's the reason why most of these vendors have started charging a convenience fee, because they are giving you a convenience of you actually not having to come to the store or physical place and you were doing it at home. So they have just found out an avenue where they are charging you convenience fees. Because if you want to go for a movie today, no one really goes to a theater to book the tickets, even though the tickets might be available there, but everyone wants to do it through an app. So obviously there is convenience fees and other things which is charged by these avenues. Okay, so with the growth of technology and advancement of technology and other options, there comes a lot of convenience, a lot of benefits that it offers to the people. And if this the field of audit and accounts also is not left behind. A lot of advancement has happened in the auditing and accounting field as well, where more and more inclusion of the information systems or computer systems have been done in order to make things easier. So similarly, there are the introduction or the inclusion of computer systems or information systems in the audit as well, to make the work easier for an auditor or for him to enable him to understand it. Please take a couple of minutes, go through this. Any questions, please ask me. Any questions you may have, please ask me and let me know once you're done. Take a minute more. Any questions you may have, please ask me. Are we done? Okay, take about 30 seconds more and then we proceed. Any questions you may have, please ask me. Okay, now key features of an automated environment. Now, so far we are looking at what is an automated environment. So let's look at the key features of an automated environment. The fundamental principle of an automated environment is the ability to carry out business with less manual intervention and more systems driven facilities. Okay, so the basic meaning of an automated environment is that is the ability to carry out business with less manual intervention. That means less human intervention and more system driven. So everything is system driven, right from recording the transaction, classifying the transaction, preparation of financial statements, and the end result. Okay, everything is system driven and there is very little manual intervention. The complexity of a business environment depends on the level of automation. That is, if a business environment is more automated, it is likely to be more complex. Please remember, the more the automation is there, the more the complex the environment is. It does not make the environment simpler for a person who is looking at it from outside. Maybe the person who's working on it inside may find it easier, but a person like an auditor who looks at it from outside, it becomes more complex for him. The more automation there is, the more complex the environment becomes. Okay, so it is likely to be more complex. So enables faster business operations. So what does the automated environment enable, or what are the benefits? It enables the faster business operations. Okay, so all your business operations, right from collecting of data, analyzing data, recording data, and give decision making, all become faster in the business operations. Okay, then the accuracy in data processing and computation. So obviously, compared to humans, when it is done by machines, there is more accuracy in data processing and computation. But there is a difference. Like humans have an application of mind. If certain option is not working, they can modify the option and go to another option. But with computers and with machines, they follow instructions strictly, and whatever is said to them, they do only that. So that's why you have more accuracy in data processing and computation. Then there is an ability to process large volumes of transactions. Obviously, what is not possible is when you are doing it manually. You may be able to process transactions up to a certain extent, but not more than that. But the automated environment or the use of computers will give you the ability to process large volumes of transactions at a very fast pace. Okay, then there is integration between business operations. For your various using automated systems, there is a interconnection and integration of your various business operations, like your production, purchase, sales, marketing, etc. Okay, so you can integrate all these business operations using automated systems so that you get a very wholesome view to the entire fact. Then there is better security and controls. Obviously, with the automated systems, there is better security and controls that come to the person using them, as well as he can really control and see what he wants to secure, what he wants to share, with whom he wants to share. All these options are there in an automated environment, and it is less prone to human errors because they are machines, right? So whatever instructions are given to them, they blindly follow those instructions without using their mind. So that is why they are less prone to human errors. Okay, if a company uses an integrated enterprise resource planning ERP system, enterprise resource planning like SAP, Oracle, etc., now then it is considered more complex to audit. On the other hand, if a company is using an off-the-shelf accounting software like probably Tally, then it is likely to be less automated and hence less complex environment. So basically, even your environment, which you are the various integrated enterprises, various softwares that you're using, also affect the environment. Okay. Like for example, now what is an ERP? ERP is an enterprise resource planning system. Like you have your SAP, you have your Oracle, and these are used basically by huge organizations that have very huge operations, and they use these softwares like SAP and Oracle that integrates all the operations of the government, operations of the entity. Like we spoke about production, purchase, sales, marketing, etc. everything, and then it works in a wholesome environment. Okay. Whereas on the other hand, if you look at a software like Tally, which most of the people use, especially in India, it is not an ERP, but it gives you what you're looking for. It is not. It is less automated than what SAP and Oracle is. SAP and Oracle, if there is any stock of items which is less than a particular level, it will give you a notification that it has reached its reorder level, or it is fast consuming, depleting. So please refill it. But that is not what something Tally does. But Tally has its own advantages, and ERP and SAP and Oracle have their own advantages. All right, and they are more automated. If they are more automated, that means they are more complex. And Tally is lesser automated, so that means it is less complex than your other softwares. Okay, please take about 2 minutes, go through this. Any questions, please ask. Okay, please take about 2 minutes, go through this. Please take about a minute more, carefully go through this. Any questions, please ask me. Let me know once you're done, please. Any questions, please ask. Okay, let me know once you're done, please. Okay, are we done? Okay, let's proceed. All right. Now let's look at relevance of IT in an audit. IT means information technology. When business operates in a more automated environment, it is likely that we will see several business functions and activities happening within the systems. Consider the following aspects instead of. Now, computations and calculations are automatically carried out. For example, bank interest computations and inventory valuation is automatically done by the system, and it is not done by the manual uh, person. Accounting entries are posted automatically. For example, subledger to GL postings are automatic. So once an entry or source document is put, the system already puts the entries into the subledger to general ledger postings. Okay, business policies and procedures, including internal controls, are applied automatically. For example, delegation of authority of journal approvals, customer credit limit checks are performed automatically. So once a transaction is put, it is already forwarded according to the system matrix. Whoever it has to go through for approval, it already goes to him and it sits in his inbox for approval. Okay, so then those are the internal controls that are applied. Reports used in business are produced from systems. Management and other stakeholders rely on these reports and information produced. For example, debtors aging report. Okay, and then user access and security are controlled by assigning system roles to users. For example, segregation of duties can be enforced effectively. So basically, if you see all these steps one by one are done automatically by the system, and there is minimum human interface. Okay, so in this situation, the entire environment becomes very complex, and we do not have a trail. Okay, that once you enter the source document, the posting is done according to the internal controls. It goes to the respective person for approval. Reports are used in business are produced by the system. Management and other stakeholders rely on these reports, and then the users can access security. That means who can access what part of the system, that is controlled by the security. So here we see it is a comprehensive way in which IT is involved in data processing today and data recording today. So an auditor, it is very important for an auditor to know more about this. Please take 2 minutes, go through this. Any questions, please ask. Any questions you may have, please ask me. Any questions, please ask me. Let me know once you're done, please. Are we done? Any questions, please ask. Let me know once you're done, please. Okay, then Companies derive benefit from the use of IT systems as an enabler to support various business operations and activities. Now, see, businesses are growing every day, so it is becoming less and less possible for humans to manage these activities as much as they could earlier. So that is why the companies are depending more and more on IT systems as an enabler to support various business operations and activities. Auditors need to understand the relevance of these IT systems to an audit of financial statements. Obviously, if the auditor is using IT systems in his operations, then the auditor will also have to understand these systems, because if he does not understand those systems, then he find it very difficult to carry on the audit of these systems. While it is true that the use of IT systems and automation benefits the business by making operations more accurate, reliable, effective, and efficient, such system also introduce new risks, including IT-specific risks, which need to be considered, assessed, and addressed by the management. So this point here simply says, no doubt that the whole IT environment and the growth of technology and everything helps the businesses to do their activities much more efficiently, but also along with more and more introduction of IT in their operations, there also is a new risk. There is also a security risk. There is a risk of hacking. There is a risk of data leakage. There is a risk of data theft, which the management needs to address. Now, just imagine a situation where all the information used to be in ledgers, and if you just put the ledgers in your cupboard and lock the cupboard, it was secure. But now you're putting it in automated IT systems. Okay, the information which were earlier confidential. So obviously, if a person has more knowledge about the IT environment, he will be able to hack in or break into the IT environment of the company and take advantage of those situations. So this is what that needs to be avoided. To the extent that it is relevant to an audit of financial statements, even auditors are required to understand, assess, and respond to such risks that arise from the use of IT systems. So the auditors not only need to have an understanding of the IT systems that are prevailing in the company, but they also need to have an understanding and how to tackle the risks that are associated from the IT systems, because that could also affect the overall audit of the company. In an audit of financial statements, the primary focus is around those risks that are relevant to financial reporting. However, there could be other non-audit assurance engagement that auditors may be involved, wherein the area of focus could include those IT risks relevant to the company's compliance with business operations in India to financial reporting risks. Okay, so basically, not only in the audit environment, but also there could be other non-audit environments where the client has undertaken IT environment, which could affect eventually the audit environment. So the auditor needs to understand this as well. Please take 2 minutes, go through this. Any questions, please ask. Any questions, please ask me. Any questions you may have, please ask me. Okay, take about another minute. Any questions, please ask me. Let me know once you're done, please. Are we done? Any questions, please ask me. Okay. Given below are some situations in which IT will be relevant to an audit. So now let's look at the situations which the auditor needs to keep in mind while doing his audit. Increase the use of system and application software in business, for example, use of our ERP. So over the years, more than the manual accounting and bookkeeping, now more and more ERPs and business application softwares are being used. Okay, so that now the auditor also has to keep in pace and have an understanding of these. Oracle, SAP, Tally, and all these things are also developing. So the auditor also needs to know about them. Complexity of transaction has increased. Multiple systems, networking systems. So there is one client system, one server system, and there are multiple client systems who are entering data into that. So that has increased the complexity of transactions. A lot of people have been given access to the books of accounts and the accounting software. So that has made it multiple systems and a network of systems, which increases the complexity of transactions. So the auditor also has to tackle this. High-tech nature of business. Now the nature of business also has become complex, right? With the introduction of telecom sector, e-commerce sector, and your 3G, 4G, 5G, and all these come under your telecom. So that has made the business environment also quite high-tech and quite complex. So that also needs to be tackled by the auditor. And please remember, all these complexities are more relating to the technology. So the auditor needs to understand the technology and be paced with the changing technology and the changing world. The volume of transactions are high today in the insurance, banking, railways, ticketing, everything. If you see the volume, you will actually find it crazy. You know, the kind of volume that is there in the insurance business, banking business, railways, and ticketing. So that also acts as a roadblock to the auditor, which the auditor has to address. Company policy, compliance. There are various today. The compliances, the rules and regulations for these companies have also gone up along with the complexity in the operations, to ensure that no one is cheated or no one is taken undue advantage of. So whatever are these advanced compliances and other things, more and more companies are doing these compliances online through the use of IT systems. So in order to keep up to pace, the auditor also needs to have an understanding of these IT policies or the compliance policies. Regulatory requirements, like for example the Companies Act 2013, IFC, IT Act 2008. So all these new laws and regulations are being introduced as the businesses are growing and the environment in which they are working are become more complexes. So the auditor needs to also have an idea about these regulatory requirements, that is changes in the Companies Act, IFC, IT Act 2008, required by Indian and international standards. So certain minimum requirements are there by the Indian and international standards, like your ISO, PCI, DSS, SA315, SOC, and ISAE. Then increases efficiency and effectiveness of audit. So there is no doubt, when the auditor keeps up to date and keeps pace with the technological environments, that also increases the efficiency and effectiveness of the audit. Okay, please take 2 minutes, go through this. Any question, please ask. Any questions you may have, please ask me. Take 2 minutes. Any question you may have, please ask me. Let me know once you're done. Any questions, please ask. Please take another 2 minutes, go through this carefully. Any questions you may have, please ask. Any questions, please ask. Okay, now let's look at the risk and controls in an automated environment. So what are the risks that the auditor faces in an automated environment, and what are the controls that could address those risks? First one, understand and documenting automated environment. In the previous section, we have learned that in an audit of financial statements, an auditor is required to understand the entity and its business, including IT, as per SA 315. Understanding the entity and its automated environment involves understanding how IT department is organized, IT activities, and the IT dependencies, relevant risks and controls. So, like we discussed in the entire discussion on audit, please remember that the auditor needs to study the entity, the environment in which the entity is working, the controls that the entity has, then plan based on the effectiveness of audit. Then he has to plan his audit strategy, audit plan, and the audit program, and then execute the audit. As part of his information about the company or about his information about the entity, he needs to also study the automated environment that the company is working in. Understanding the entity and its automated environment includes understanding how the IT department is organized, as to where is the IT department placed in the organization, what are its functions, what are its activities, and how dependent the company is on its IT department, and the relevant risks and controls. So the company needs to find out all this, that in the IT department, or because of the integration between the work and the IT department, what are the risks that the company has identified, and to mitigate those risks, what are the controls that the company has exercised. That is very important for the auditor to know. Now, given below are some of the points that an auditor should consider to obtain an understanding of the company's automated environment. Now, these are certain points where the auditor should use or put in some efforts to understand the automated IT environment of the company. First one, information systems being used. What are the informations or applications being used, and what they are? How do they function? What are the various systems? How are they tuned or connected with the matter under audit? And how does the management use those? Their purpose, whether they are financial or non-financial, whatever are the information systems, whether they are mainly financial or whether they are non-financial. If they are financial, which part of the financial data of the organization do they affect? And if they are non-financial also, he just needs to understand whether they affect the financial process or not. Location of the IT systems, whether they are located in-house, where the client is located, or it is global. A lot of times what happens, because of the size of the servers and this thing, the information is actually kept in a server which is kept out of India. And then there is an online information retrieval and database retrieval services being provided by that entity which is situated outside India. So if the servers are within the same campus where the auditor is doing the audit, then it is said to be more secure. But if the servers are situated abroad, there is a little bit of element of risk that may be involved in terms of data security and breach. So the auditor needs to look at this as well. Please take 2 minutes, go through this. Any questions, please ask. Any questions, please ask me. Any questions, please ask. Let me know once you're done, please. Please take another minute or so. Please go through this carefully. Let me know once you're done. Take about a minute more. Let me know once you're done. Any questions, please ask. Are we done? Okay, now next, architecture, whether the IT systems or the software is used are desktop based, client server based, web application or cloud based. Okay, now what do you mean by desktop based? Whether the entire software has been installed on the desktop of the client, and from that client the others are using it, that becomes a client server relationship. That means there is one main system on which the software is or the IT software is downloaded and installed, and from that system there are various other people known as servers who the various other systems known as clients who update the software or use the software. Or is it a web application? That means there are a lot of IT systems and IT softwares today that are applicable through a web application. That means you need to go and type in there, use your username and password, log in, and once you log in you can use the software. Okay, so all these things are complex, or it is cloud based. There is also something very new that has come up, that is cloud based. They say that the server is in the cloud and you will be given like a login like your Gmail, a user ID and password, and using that user ID and password you can log into the cloud based system, put all your information there, and whenever you need it you can retrieve it. So this is, please remember, the whole purpose of IT systems and business is to make it easier for the client or the person using it. But along with the convenience and along with the advantages also comes major risks and disadvantages, which we will discuss further. Then the versions. Now please remember, technology keeps changing every time. So there are various versions of the software or the IT systems that keep coming. Functions and risks could vary in different versions of same application. So today if the auditor finds out about a version, the version may not be the same next week. It might be updated with a few updates and some upgrades. Okay, so that also needs to be kept in mind. Interface within systems in case multiple systems exist. Now please remember, if there is one system and if that system is being accessed by a lot of systems, okay, then that means there is an interface within systems. So the interface within system means the multiple systems exist which work on one system, and whatever data is entered or whatever changes are made on one system, it automatically reflects in the changes made in the client system as well. So that increases the complexity of the IT environment. Then whether it's in-house or packaged, Now, a lot of companies make their own softwares. They are equipped and they are talented to make their own software. So if they make their own software, they make it according to their own needs. But a lot of companies, a lot of entities are not so prepared to make an in-house software. So they use a packaged software, which is available on the shelf. And so these two also, whether it's in-house or whether it's packaged, also affects the IT environment in which the entity is working. Okay, because if it is in-house, they would have made it according to their needs. But if it is packaged, then they need to modify according to the packaged software's needs. So both these things need to be understood properly. Then outsourced activities, IT maintenance and support. So please remember, the more and more IT support, or more and more IT dependent a company becomes, an entity becomes, they also need to take care of its IT maintenance and support. Okay, because along with the IT dependence comes the IT maintenance and support. There might be system crashes, there might be database issues, there might be security issues. So there has to be a continuous IT maintenance and support team that takes care of all the IT issues. Then there should also be some key persons in the organizations who are designated with the whole idea of how to take care of the IT environment. They are also in a lot of organizations, they are known as CIO, that means Chief Information Officer, or CISO, that is Chief Information Systems Officer, or administrators who take care of the IT environment and the IT security in the organization. So basically, if there's any problem relating to the IT environment, they are called upon and they are experts in that field and they immediately solve it. The understanding of a company's IT environment that is obtained should be documented using any standard format or template. So now when the auditor does the audit, it is very important that he completely discusses all these with the key persons in the organization who have a knowledge about the IT environment, documents all this, the IT environment and how it affects his audit, and then accordingly prepare his audit program and plan. Okay, please take a minute, go through this. Any questions, please ask. Any questions, please ask. Take a minute. Any questions whatsoever on this slide, please ask me. Are we done? Take about 10 more seconds and then we continue. Okay, now having summarized the document, now when the auditor has understood the entire IT environment in which the company is working, having documented the entire thing, now having summarized the document helps the auditor in determining the areas considered in scope of audit, and as can be seen from the last column. In this illustration, it can be seen that two applications have been considered as in scope for audit based on the purpose of financial relevance of the audit. So basically, by whole documentation that the auditor has done about the IT environment, he gains an understanding as to which components of the IT environment are affecting his audit. And so he will base his test of controls, substantive procedures, audit plan based on those IT environment. Having obtained an understanding of the IT systems and the automated environment of a company, the auditor should now understand the risks that arise from the use of the system. Please remember, the auditor needs to identify the risks that could arise from the audit, from the IT environment, and what are the controls that the company has or should have to address these risks. Okay, even below are some such risks that should be considered by the auditor. Let's quickly have a look. Now, what are the risks? Inaccurate processing of data, processing inaccurate data, or both. So if there is a IT system, the first risk is that that IT system processes data inaccurately or processing inaccurate data or both. Okay, so that is the first risk, because see, the whole company is relying on the IT system. So the first risk is that those IT systems on which the company is relying could process inaccurate data or inaccurate processing of data. The second one is unauthorized access of the data. Who has the access? So if there is a financial and accounting part of the IT system, now who has that access to that data? Are there people who are not in the finance background, like your HR, like your procurement? Are they given access to those areas as well? Because if that is the case, then that is a major lapse. Then there are direct data changes, back-end changes. So is there anyone who can make direct data changes from the back? Has there been any admin access given to anyone at the back who can directly come and make changes in the data? Excessive access, privileges access. So there might be some people who supersede everyone and say, yeah, I've got the access and whatever changes I want, I can make it. If that is the case, those could be the administrators or they could be the CIOs and CISOs. That is a control lapse. Lack of adequate segregation of duties. Lack of segregation of duties means the same person who is receiving the goods from outside into the stores of the company, if the same person is given access to the system and he is allowed to update the system about the receipts of the goods, that is a big lapse, because if he wants to commit a fraud, even though there are lesser goods received, he might update in the system that there are different number of goods received. So it will be very easy for him to commit a fraud. Then unauthorized changes of systems and programs. So if any person who has not been authorized to operate the systems, the IT systems, if they have been given access, okay, then it will result in changes to systems or programs that could affect the data integrity and data security. And failure to make necessary changes to systems or programs. If you fail to update the IT systems on time, that could also be a problem. And lastly, there could be loss of data, which is a huge loss. Today, businesses, the most valuable asset that the businesses have are data. And once data is lost and you don't have a backup, it becomes almost impossible for you to do the whole thing again because of the complexity and the speed at which things are happening. Please take 2 minutes, go through this. Any questions, please ask. Any questions, please ask me. Take a minute more. Any questions you have on this, please ask me. Let me know once you're done, please. Are we done? Any questions? Okay, just take about 10 or 15 seconds more and then we proceed. Okay. Now, impact of IT related risks, that is on substantive audit controls and reporting. Okay, now, like we discussed in the earlier sessions, as part of the auditor's work, risk assessment, first he assesses the risk, the control risk and the inherent risk, and then based on that he does his control testing, that is what are the controls that are appearing in the organization, and then based on the effectiveness or ineffectiveness of the various internal controls in the organization, he decides substantive audit procedures. Substantive audit procedures means the procedures of actual going down to the checking level, checking the supporting documents with the various entries. Okay, so impact of IT related risks on the substantive audit procedures, controls and reporting. So what is this slide we're going to see what is the impact of IT related risks on the substantive audit procedures, controls and reporting. The above risks, if not mitigated, that is the IT related risks, if not mitigated, it could have an impact on the audit in different ways. Let us understand how. Okay. Firstly, we may not be able to rely on the data obtained from the systems where risks exist. Okay, this means that all form of data, information or reports that we obtain from systems for the purpose of audit has to be thoroughly tested and corroborated for completeness and accuracy. So first and foremost, if there are any errors, IT related risks, the first risk is whatever IT systems that we are relying on that is giving us the data for the audit, if that system itself is not right, then how can we rely on the data? If there is a particular IT system or a software that is computing the data, processing data, and giving you reports, the first risk that comes is that it is not completely processing the data accurately, right? So if that is the case, then how can you rely on any report given on it? Because then every report will have to be thoroughly tested and corroborated for completeness and accuracy, because unless it is complete and accurate, you cannot proceed with your auditing procedures. Okay, so firstly, we may not be able to rely on data obtained from systems where such risks exist. This means all forms of data, information or reports that we obtain from systems for the purpose of audit has to be thoroughly checked and corroborated for completeness and accuracy. The second one, we will not be able to rely on automated controls, calculations, accounting policies that are built into the application. Additional audit work may be required in the case. Now, a couple of slides earlier we spoke, right, that there are certain systems where you just put the source document, that today I bought a laptop for 50,000. You put the source documents and that will automatically post the entries in the respective places. It will go into the general ledger posting, it will go to the balance sheet, everything. And it will also go for approval to the person according to the matrix that is entered into the system. So it is so automated that within a click of a finger, the information is gone, the approval is gone, and it's gone, it's hit in the right place. So, but please remember, these automated controls, calculations, accounting policies that are built into the application. Now, who builds them into the application? It is like humans like you and me who build it into the application, right? So the auditor has to actually check that whatever these calculations are, these automated controls are that are present in IT systems, the automated controls, calculations, accounting procedures that are built into the applications are correctly entered. So how do you think he will do that? He will do a recomputation procedure and he will also sample check. Okay, that means he may take a transaction and he may manually see right from the time the transaction is incurred till the approval, till the putting in the posting in the ledger. Manually he will do it, and then he will also check whether the system has done the same thing. Okay, so that is also known as recomputation and is also known as testing. Are we clear? Okay, then third, due to regulatory requirements of auditors to report on internal financial controls of the company, the auditor might also have to modify it, and the audit report might also have to be audited modified in some cases. So these days, with the technology growing and businesses becoming more complex, the audit report also has a clause which talks about the IT controls into the organization. So the auditor will also may have to modify his audit report in some instances to comment on the IT controls. In all the above scenarios, it is likely that the auditor will be required to obtain more audit evidence and perform additional audit work. The auditor should also be able to demonstrate how the risks were identified and what audit evidence was obtained and validated to address these IT risks. So obviously, with the introduction of IT systems, the work of the auditor and the responsibility of the auditor has gone up. So in his documentation, the auditor will also have to mention now that what are the IT risks he identified and what are the tests he conducted to mitigate those risks. That will also form part of his audit documentation now. Please take 2 minutes, go through this. Any question, please ask. Any questions, please ask me. Any questions, please ask me. Any questions? Please ask me. Any questions? Please ask me. Take another minute. Let me know once you're done. Carefully go through this. Any questions you may have, please ask me. Are we done? Let me know once you're done, please. Okay, now let's look at the types of controls in an automated environment. Okay, so what are the kind of controls that exist in an automated environment? General IT controls, application controls, and IT dependent controls. Okay, so what are the general IT controls that exist in an automated environment? Let's have a look. General IT controls are policies and procedures that relate to many applications and support the effective functioning of the application controls. They apply to mainframe, mini-frame, and end-user environments. General IT controls that maintain the integrity of information and security of data commonly include controls over the following. Okay, that is as per SA Standards of Auditing 315. So see, basic general IT controls will mean the controls about data security as to who has access, how is it placed in the organization, what is the data it processes and how it gives its results, and all those things are controlled. Okay. Just a second. Okay. So now generally IT controls that maintain the integrity of information and security of data commonly include controls over the following. So basically your general IT controls include control over the following. What are the items? Data center and network operations as to how is the data center situated, who has access to the data center, how is the network operations, which are the departments that are given access to the IT data and the IT systems. Then the program change, who are authorized to make program changes into the IT systems. Because please note, making program changes into the IT systems is not a very good thing to do, and if it is done by unauthorized persons or by persons who have lack of knowledge, it could destroy the entire data. Access security, which department, like for example, if HR, why does the HR need access security to the data? Why does the marketing team need data access to financial data? So the general IT controls will determine as to who is given the access of the data, why are they given access to the data, what are the various people who can make program changes, and where is the data center and what are the network connections that are present in the systems. Then we also have application system acquisitions, development and maintenance, business applications, as to who are the people who are maintaining and developing the application systems. Okay, so these are a little bit of general IT thing. We will discuss each of these items in detail in the following slides. Please take 2 minutes go through this? Any questions? Please ask. Any questions you may have, please ask me. Any questions? Please ask me. Please take 2 minutes. Then we will discuss each of these points in detail in the further slides. Okay, any questions? Please ask me. Are we done? Take another minute, then we proceed. Any questions? Please ask. We are talking about the types of controls in an automated environment. General IT controls, application controls, and IT dependent controls. We will be discussing each of these topics in detail. But you need to understand this first, the basics of the general IT controls. Okay, let me know if you have any questions whatsoever on whatever we've done so far or on this slide. Please ask me. Are we done? Okay, now as we've taken about 1 hour and 15 minutes of continuous classes, let's take a break for 10 minutes and let's continue at about 7:55. Okay, so go stretch up, have some water, go for a walk, and I'll see you in exactly 10 minutes. At 7:55, I will see you. Take a break. Okay, right, we are in the middle of a break. Okay, and we will resume session at 7:50, 7:51. So we are on a break for about 2 or 3 minutes, and then we will continue. Okay? Yeah, so please stay logged in. We will resume in about 3 or 4 minutes. We will continue in about 3 or 4 minutes. We're in the middle of a break. Okay, come back in about 3 or 4 minutes. Okay, we're in the middle of a break. Okay, we will resume the session in 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, I'll just come back. All right, begin to come back. In another minute, we will resume the session. All right, we're about to resume. All right, so let's resume with our general IT controls. These are IT controls generally implemented to mitigate the IT specific risks and applied commonly across multiple IT systems, applications, and business processes. Hence, general IT controls are known as pervasive controls, okay, or indirect controls. Let us learn about each item of the general IT controls in more detail. So they are known as pervasive or indirect because they don't directly attack the problem, but indirectly they try to protect the entire IT environment. Okay, by giving, by restricting access, by restricting access to people who can modify the systems, by restricting access to the people who can make changes or who can pass entry. So it's an indirect way of IT control. Okay, so let's have a look at each item in detail. Data center and network operations. Okay, that was the first one, data center and network operations. Now, what is the objective? The objective is to ensure that production systems are processed and to meet financial reporting objectives. Okay, so what are the activities? The overall management of computer activities, batch operations, that is preparing, scheduling, and executing. Please remember, data is processed in two ways. One is real-time processing of data, which is an expensive and time-consuming affair, and then there is batch jobs. That is, certain number of transactions are accumulated in a batch, and then the batch is processed. In the meantime, then the next batch is accumulated. So this, the data center and network operations enables this and sees that the batch jobs are done properly. Then there is backups. There is proper backups of all the data which is there in the IT systems, storage and retention, and seen that the system that they ensure, the general IT controls ensure that these backups are retained and stored properly and there is no damage done to them. Performance monitoring, operating system, database, and networks. Then they regularly keep checking the performance of the operating system in the IT environment, the database that has all the data, and how the networks are working, whether every system connected with it has the proper access to it or not, and whether network access is being provided to all of them. Then recovery from failure. So in case there is a failure, that means the system does not boot up or something like that, then the data center and network operations checks that the booting is done on a proper basis and the data is recovered properly. Help desk functions. If any person who's working in the IT environment has any problems of recording, monitoring, and tracking, then this is the data center and network operations that provides these help desk functions. Service level agreements, monitoring and compliance to the service level agreements, and the documentation, that is the operations manual and service reports. So as an auditor, they may document the various operation manuals of the various software, IT systems, and the service reports. Okay, so this is with the first point. Please take 2 more minutes. Go through this. Any questions, please ask. Any questions you may have, please ask me. Any questions, please ask. Let me know once you're done, please. Are we done? Okay, let's proceed with the next point. Then we have program change. Now this is another general IT control. Objective to ensure that modified systems continue to meet financial reporting objectives. So please remember, a lot of times the IT systems are changed or modified or upgraded or updated. So the program change is a general IT control that ensures that modified systems continue to meet financial reporting objectives. Now how is this done? Please note the activities. Change management process. What is the definition, roles and responsibilities of the people who are authorized to make changes in the general IT controls? The change requests, record, manage and track the various change requests that are made, making changes, and when now after the change requests are recorded, managed and tracked, the actual making of changes is analyzed, designed and developed, then test the changes. Whatever changes are made in the general IT controls, they are tested to see that the results are as per the test plan and test cases, and there is a valid user interface. Then apply changes in the production. Then whatever changes that have been proposed and tested into the IT controls are applied into the changes in production. And then in case of emergency and minor changes, how it is handled, how does the IT system handle the emergency and the minor changes, documentation, user technical manuals and user training. Now user training is given because there are changes made in the IT environment. So the users are supposed to get a training to know what are the changes and how do they handle them. Okay, so that is to do with your program change. That is the general IT control. How a program change is handled is a control. Okay, that's the risk. So we are looking at controls over the following, right? So the first one was data center, and now we're looking at controls over program change. So if there are any changes in the IT programs, how they should be handled. First, the change management process need to be understood. That is the definition and roles and responsibilities of the people making the changes. Who has made the change request? Record, manage and track it. Then the actual making of changes is observed, analyzing, designing and developing the actual changes. Then before those are involved in the actual system, you test those changes. That is the test plan and test cases. Then if they are found okay, you apply the changes in the production. And then emergency and minor changes, documentation. Once the system has accepted all those changes, it's all fine, it's all tested, you document the user and technical manuals describing those changes, and then based on that you train the users to help them acquaint with the changed version. Okay, so that is what you do with the that is the thing when you handle the program change. The risk is program change, and the controls are the following to manage the program change. Please take another minute, go through this. Any questions, please ask. Please go through this in detail. Any questions, please ask me. So basically we're talking about general IT controls include control over the following. The first one was data center, the next one is program change. Okay, we have two more in this, we will see further. Any questions, please ask me. Let me know once you're done, please. Are we done? Okay, so the next component of general IT controls involves control over access security. That means who is given access to the various IT systems. Okay, so objective to ensure that access to programs and data is authenticated and authorized to meet financial reporting objectives. So the next general IT controls, which means control over access security. That means who is given access to the various IT systems and the operations. What are the activities? Firstly, security, organization, and management. So we need to establish, the flowchart as to who are the security, organization, and management, and who are given access. Which division from each department, who is the person who's given access to this? Then what are the various security policies and procedures? Those will be documented. So the auditor needs to understand that what are the security policies and procedures that are present in the organization, what is the security, organization, and the management, who's in charge of that. Then what is the security that is applied? Is it a password based security? Is it a fingerprint based security? Is it an eyesight based security? Or what is the application security that has been applied in the organization? The auditor needs to see that. Then what are the steps taken for data security? The main item is data here. So the auditor needs to concentrate what are the various steps taken by the organization to protect the data so that it is protected from unauthorized access. Then the whole operating system which is maintaining and collecting the data, what is the security there? Who are given access? Okay, and what are the steps taken to deny access to someone? How is it tracked? Then the network security, whether the operating system or the data can be accessed through a network hack or internal network or perimeter network, whatever are the networks in the organization, who is monitoring them and who is monitoring the access through the network. Then we have physical security as to all those servers and all those systems, what is the access controls, what are the environment controls, whether those are properly locked in the room and properly maintained and there is no access given to anyone, only specialized and demarcated people are given access to that zone. So all these things are noted because these are the general IT controls which exercise control over access security. Okay, so physical security is also important. The physical security of the various systems, the various servers and everything is also important. And then we have the system administration and privileged accounts, that too, who are the system admins, who are the database administrators, and who are the super users, which means who are the people who are authorized to make those changes, to authorize others to access those systems. Those are known as the system admins, DBAs. That means the database administrators and the super users. So the auditor needs to understand all this and document this as part of his documentation also, that what is the security, organization, and management maintained in the company. Okay, please take 2 minutes, go through this. Any questions, please ask. Any questions you may have, please ask. Let me know once you're done, please. Come on, carefully go through this. Any questions, please ask me. Are we done? Are we done? Take about 30 seconds more. Any questions, please ask me. Are we done? Okay, now let's look at the next one. Now we are looking at general IT controls that include control over the application system acquisition, development, and maintenance. Now the objective of this general IT control is to ensure that systems are developed, configured, and implemented to meet financial reporting objectives. Now please remember there are two things here. One is that the software, the financial reporting software, might be developed in-house. In that case, it is very easy to ensure that systems are developed, configured, and implemented to meet financial reporting objectives. But then if you are picking up a software from the shelf, then you may have to modify it according to your specific needs and customized needs, and that becomes a little bit of a tedious process. So here the activities or the control activities include the overall management of the development activities. So let's assume that the software is being developed in-house. So then the overall management of the development activities, we need to see what are the various financial reporting requirements of the organization. A documentation needs to be done, detailed one, as to what is the flow of information, who will be handling what, and what is the end result you want. Based on that, an overall management of the activities or an overall report of the activities needs to be made. Then the project of development of the software needs to be initiated. Then you need to decide about the analysis and design and where do you place it in the organization. If there is support from the top management, then it will be placed right up, or if there is no support from the top management, then it will not be taken very seriously. The analysis and the design, what kind of a software you want, you will have to get into the help of software experts and how do they see the software being made. Then the actual construction of the financial reporting software will have to be done. And for this, you will also obviously need to have a person who has knowledge on how this works. And this thing, then the testing and quality assurance, testing with data as to you put the input, you already know what the result is, and you see that your system, your financial reporting system or software that is being introduced, it gives the right data or output that you already know. Then the data conversion, that the source data, when you put the source data, what is it converted into? Does it get automatically posted to the ledger? Does it go for auto approval? Does it go and sit in the balance sheet or P&L? Then based on all your testing and everything, whatever is there, the testing of data, data conversion, quality assurance, if everything is as per plan, then you decide whether do you go live or not. And if you decide to go live, you decide also when do you plan to go live. Okay, because you do not need to hurry in these decisions as these are big decisions. And then at the end of it, after you go live, you need to document the entire procedure of how the software was developed and what are the features and opportunities the software offers to you. And then you train the people. This is the most important part. You train the people who actually work on the software. That is your F&A, finance and accounts people who will be actually using this software. Okay, please take 2 minutes, go through this. Any questions, please ask. Any questions you may have, please ask me. Take 2 minutes, go through this. Any questions? Please ask me. Please take a couple of minutes more, go through this carefully. Any questions? Please ask me. Please take another minute. Carefully go through it and ask me any questions you may have. Okay, are we done? Okay, now let's look at what are application controls. Okay, so on the previous slides, we looked at general IT controls. Now let's look at what are application controls. Application controls include both automated or manual controls that operate at a business process level. Automated application controls are embedded into the IT applications, viz. ERPs, and help in ensuring the completeness, accuracy, and integrity of the data in those systems. Okay, so now, like in the previous one, we saw general IT controls. Now, application controls are controls that are inbuilt in the application. Like in the general IT controls, we saw what are the various controls that are done around the systems, right? But in the application controls, these are controls that are built within the application being used. That is the ERP, that could be SAP, Oracle, Tally, or whatever, and help in ensuring the completeness, accuracy, and integrity of data in those systems. So how does this happen? The examples of automated applications include edit checks and validation of input data, sequence number checks, user limit checks, reasonableness checks, mandatory data fields. Okay, so now let's look at what are the automated application controls that are included in the applications. Okay, now examples of automated applications include edit checks. So if there is any number that is edited, it will ask you the reason for it being edited, and it will flag off a message to someone that any particular entry or any particular amount is being edited, and validation of input data. So in case you, instead of numbers, you put in alphabets, then it will not accept it. That field will not accept alphabets instead of numbers. Okay, so these are a few controls, inbuilt controls into the systems. Then you have a sequence number. Sequence number checks that the entries are in sequence 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you delete 7, or if you suddenly name something as 10 and you miss 9, then that will give you an error saying there is a sequence number check. User limits check. So the system can automatically define the number of users in that application, and if the number of user exceeds, if unknowingly or people give access to more than the people that are allowed, the system will throw up an alarm saying that access is given to more than the desired people. Then reasonableness check, whether the data entered is reasonable or it's correct, and mandatory field checks. And you might see in the software there is a blue asterisk or a red asterisk which says these are mandatory data fields where data needs to be mandatorily put, otherwise the function will not proceed further. So at the further there will be no processing of data. Okay, so then that is IT, that is application controls. Okay, so that's what we discussed. So we are done with general IT controls and we are looking at IT controls. Okay, we are looking at, sorry, we are done with general IT controls and now we are looking at application controls. So are you clear with what is application controls? Application controls are controls that are inbuilt within the application to check errors and check unauthorized access. Okay, then IT independent controls. Now this is the third type of control where what we need to check in an IT environment. Okay, what are these? IT dependent controls are basically manual controls that make use of some form of data or information or report produced from IT systems and applications. In this case, even though the control is performed manually, the design and effectiveness of such controls depends on the reliability of source data. Due to the inherent dependency of on IT, the effectiveness and reliability of automated application controls and IT dependent controls require the general IT controls to be effective. So now this is nothing else but the controls that whatever data you're putting in, it is giving you the right results. So what is the way to test these controls? You already have a data for which you know the results, and you put that data into your system and you wait for the results to come out. If the results come out as you have expected, then the IT dependent controls are also in place, and if it does not come as you expected, then there is a problem with the IT dependent controls. Similarly goes with all the people who are authorized to access it, to make changes it and everything. So this is tested in the application itself. Please take 2 minutes, go through this. Any questions, please ask. Any questions, please ask. Please take a minute more. Any questions, please ask. Carefully go through this. Any questions, please ask. Okay, take about a minute more. Let me know once you're done. Okay, now let's look at general IT controls versus application controls. We have discussed both of them in detail in the previous slides. Now let's look at what do you mean by general IT controls versus application controls. There are two categories of control over IT systems as are interrelated. That is your general IT controls as well as your application controls. The relationship between application controls and the general IT controls is that the general IT controls are needed to support the functioning of the application controls, and both are needed to ensure complete and accurate information in processing through the IT system. So, see, the basic difference between your general IT controls and application controls is the application controls are within the application that you're using for your data processing, okay, and the general IT controls are controls that are outside the application that you're using for your data processing. So basically both are interrelated, and without each other, without general IT controls, the application controls can be risk, and without the application controls, the general IT controls are of no use. So basically both are interconnected and both are dependent on each other. One is controlling it from the outside and one is controlling it from the inside. General IT controls control the applications from the outside by restricting access and unauthorized access and things like that, unauthorized changes, as well as your application controls are within the application. These controls are within the applications that ensure that wrong data is not entered, the mandatory data is filled in, the number of access does not exceed the people who are allowed. Okay, please take about 30 seconds on this and then we proceed. Any questions, please ask me. Okay, now let's look at the testing methods. Now the auditor has to test these controls, right? The general IT controls, the application controls and the IT dependent controls to gain an understanding or satisfaction that the controls are there, and that will determine his substantive testing also. So now let's look at the testing methods that an auditor employs in his audit. Having learnt about the various audit risks and controls, that is our general IT controls, application controls and the IT dependent controls, let us understand the different ways testing is performed in an automated environment. And who conducts this testing? This testing is conducted by the auditor. There are basically 4 types of audit tests that should be used. They are inquiry, observation, inspection and performance. Performance basically means recomputation. Inquiry means inquiring with the management about how the IT systems work. Observation is how does the actual processing work. The auditor can have a certain data, the result of which is known to him. He can feed that data into the system and observe what are the results coming out. And inspection means inspection of the various reports and documents that is produced by that application. Okay, as shown this thing, inquiry is the most efficient audit test, but it also gives the least audit evidence. Okay, so you might inquire again and again. It's very easy for you to inquire with a lot of people during the course of your audit that how is this done, how are the controls done, what happens if this is done, what happens if that is done. But please remember, inquiry is also the most least audit evidence. So because it is not documented, you can just inquire and leave it at that. It will just increase your knowledge about it, but it's the least audit evidence. Hence, inquiry should always be used in combination with any of the other auditing testing methods, which is observation, inspection and performance. Okay, so inquiry should be used with them. Inquiry alone is not sufficient. Now, re-performance is the most effective as an audit test and gives the best audit evidence. However, testing by re-performance could be very time consuming and least efficient most of the time. So what do you mean by re-performance? Okay, if you understood now, re-performance means, now let's say I am putting the basic salary details of 100 employees into the system, and the employee and the system is all tested and this thing, and the system is tuned in a way that once I put in the raw data, that means what is their basic salary, how many days they worked, how many days they took a holiday, and what is the increment, the system will automatically compute the salary for them for the whole year and give out the salary cost or whatever salary needs to be paid. So let's assume that the system is tuned that way. So what re-performance means, the auditor will already take that data for those 100 employees. He will do his testing, he will do his calculation that as per the data provided, monthly this should be the salary and annually this should be the salary, and he will already be waiting with the results. But then just to check whether the system is working properly or not, that is known as re-performance, he will put the raw data into the system and wait for the system to compute. Once the system computes and gives out its report, he will match the computer's report with his report to see that whatever both the things have done, whether it's the same, and if there is a discrepancy, why is the discrepancy. Okay, now the reperformance is the most effective way of getting an audit evidence, but please remember it is very time consuming and least effective most of the time. Okay, because if there is a difference, you are bound to get a difference, and if there is a difference, you are going to be spending a lot of time to find out why the difference is there. But if the reperformance matches the report that is given by the application, then that is a good enough audit evidence saying that the application is working properly. But for that, firstly, the auditor will have to manually do the working for, I am giving an example of 100 employees. There could be 1,000 employees, there could be 2,000 employees. But the auditor will have to do it manually for all 2,000 of them and then check it with the report given by the system. So it can be time consuming as well as least effective sometimes. Generally, applying inquiry with combination with inspection gives the most effective and efficient audit evidence. However, which audit test to use, that is inquiry, observation, inspection or reperformance, and in what combination is a matter of professional judgment. The auditor needs to take a call into what situation he is and which of the audit evidences he wants to use. Okay, will vary depending on the several factors including risk assessment, control environment, desired level of evidence required, history of errors, misstatements, complexity of business, assertions being addressed, etc. The auditor should document the nature of test or combination of tests applied along with the judgments in the audit file. So basically out of these four types of audit tests, that is inquiry, observation, inspection and performance, the auditor should clearly document which are the tests that he used and in what combination he used them and what was the result. Based on these tests, he will also have to say what is his assessment of the controls affecting and whether he will have to perform substantive procedures or he will not have to perform substantive procedures. Please take a couple of minutes, go through this. Any questions, please ask me. Let me know once you're done. Please take a minute or two, carefully go through this. Any questions, please ask. Okay, let me know once you're done. And any questions you may have, please ask me. Take about 30 seconds more. Are we done? Take about a minute more, carefully go through this. Any questions, please ask me. Are we done? Alright, almost there. Let's proceed. Now, when testing in an automated environment, some of the more common methods are as follows. So whenever the auditor is working in an automated environment, some of the more common testing methods are as follows. First one, obtain an understanding of how an automated transaction is processed by doing a walkthrough of one end-to-end transaction using a combination of inquiry, observation and inspection. Okay, so now basically see, whenever you need to understand something, it's very important for you to go through one transaction. Now what do you mean by walkthrough? A walkthrough means basically you pick up any one transaction. Okay, you ask the client, okay, now what is the data that you fed into the application system and what is the data that the application system throughout, okay, or gave a result. So the client will tell you, okay, this is the data that we gave about employees, and this is the data we gave about salaries. This is the result it gave. So for the auditor, first and foremost, he needs to do a walkthrough of one transaction. He will tell the client, okay, for any 1 month, you give me the data, and let me see what happens, okay. So the client will give you the data based on inquiry. So that data you put into the system in front of you. Then you will also see what are the fields that the data that the system is asking you, the application asking you, what are the mandatory fields, what are the error fields, what is the data you need to fill in, and all that data is filled in. And then you press the process button, okay, and you observe how is it being processed by the system. Then the system does all its process and all its calculation, everything, and it throws out a report. That report you take out and you inspect, and you try to see if there are any mistakes in that. Okay, so there is one transaction that you've walked through from the beginning till the end, and if after inspection you find that everything is okay with that transaction, you can place reliance on the IT controls. That means the data being processed by the IT controls is fairly correct. Okay, but in case after the inspection of the report you find out errors, then you need to increase your substantial testing, because your internal controls cannot be relied a lot. Okay, then observe how a user processes transactions under different scenarios. So then obviously now see, an application cannot work on its own, right? There is a person who operates these applications. So then it becomes important for the auditor to sit with that person who is processing the transactions or uploading the data into the systems to see that under different scenarios, how does the user upload and process the information. Like one example could be under a normal situation where all employees have come. There have been no absentees and nothing. What is the outcome after putting the data? Then another situation could be that a lot of people have left. Their full and final settlement is pending. So for them, it is different. Then another situation could be where bonuses are paid. The Diwali bonus or New Year bonuses are paid. So in that situation, what are the data that is entered and how does the system process that information? Okay, so then it will help the auditor understand that yes, the system or the application is well equipped to manage the different situations and give out the data accordingly. So that will be a combination of inquiry, observation and inspection. Alright, reperformance also, like I said, is an option, but that is very time consuming and it involves a lot of focus and attention. Okay, then the next step is inspect the configuration defined in the application. Now, if the auditor on inquiry, observation and on inspection on the report, he finds that there is some minor difference or there is some minor error, then the auditor will have to look at the configuration defined in the application as to what is the tuning done in the application, what data does it capture, the captured data is processed in what, and what are the errors that could happen. So for example, configuration could mean one of the errors could be if you enter a number 3, a single number 3, what happens? And if you enter 03, what happens? Does the system give you the same error? Okay, or if you enter 3000 or you enter 3000.00, how does the system react? Okay, so the auditor will have to look at the configuration and see that how does the application process all this. Okay, let's look at an example. Inspect the system logs to determine any changes made since the last audit testing. So once the auditor has tested the system, he will look at the log of that system to see if any changes in the application have been made since the last audit testing, because if any changes have been made since the last audit testing, then the same need to be communicated to the auditor, otherwise that will result in a lot of wastage of his time and efforts. Now let's take another example. Inspect technical manual, user manual of systems and application. Please remember, any application, okay, whether it is a developed application or whether it is an inbuilt application, will have a user manual and technical manual, because it helps the people know how it works. Okay, so the auditor needs to inspect that to get an idea about how it works, what are the data that it captures, what are the data that it asks for, and how is it done. Carry out a test check, negative testing, and observe the error message displayed by the application. So by error message, it means if the user manual says that you need to enter data like 3000.00, okay, so the auditor may just enter 3000 and see what happens, whether the system accepts it or whether the system rejects it. If it rejects that data of 3000 instead of 3000.00, then what is the reject message it gives? and then he can place reliance on the technical manual as well as the system applications and the other applications. Are you clear? Please take 2 minutes, go through this. Any questions, please ask. Any questions, please ask me. Please take 2 minutes, let me know once you're done. Any questions, please ask me. Take 2 minutes, go through this carefully. Any questions, please ask. Take about a minute more. Any questions? Any questions, anyone? Please ask me. Please take another minute. Okay, now let's look at internal financial controls as per regulatory requirements. Okay, so what are the internal financial controls that are required to be kept as per financial requirements? The term internal financial controls IFC basically refers to the policies and procedures put in place by companies for ensuring. Okay, so now these are mandatory internal financial controls that are required to be put in by organizations or companies for ensuring a reliability of financial reporting, effectiveness and efficiency of operations, compliance with applicable laws and regulations, safeguarding of assets, and prevention and detection of frauds. Okay, so now we are going to see what are the internal financial controls that are required as per regulatory requirements, which ensure reliability and of financial reporting, effectiveness and efficiency of operations, compliance with applicable laws and regulations. Now there might be various laws and regulations applicable to the Companies Act, Accounting Standard, Ind AS, SEBI guidelines, and various other guidelines. So what are the controls that the company has kept which ensure compliance with applicable laws and regulations, the effectiveness and efficiency of the operations of the company and the controls it is exercising, the reliability of the financial reporting, that's to what is the reliability of the balance sheet, profit and loss, cash flow, and the notes to accounts that are being generated by the company, safeguarding of assets, how safe are the assets of the company from being embezzled, manipulated or damaged, and then eventually prevention of detection and frauds, how well the company's systems are equipped to prevent and detect the frauds. The Companies Act 2013 has placed a greater emphasis on the effective implementation and reporting on the internal controls of the company. So now, as part of the auditor's job, an auditor is also required to check and comment on the effective implementation and reporting on internal controls for a company, which are basically certain companies which are beyond a certain threshold. Okay, so we are going to talk about this. Take about a minute, go through this. Any questions, please ask me. Take about a minute, go through this. Any questions, please ask me. We are going to have a look at what are these internal financial controls as per the regulatory requirements from the next slide. Please take a minute, go through this slide, then we continue. Let me know once you're done, please. Are we done? Okay. Now, the directors and management have primary responsibility for implementing and maintaining effective internal control framework, and the auditors are expected to evaluate, validate, and report on the design and operating effectiveness of the internal financial controls. So basically, who has the responsibility of developing and implementing effective internal controls? It is the directors and the management of the company who have the primary responsibility of implementing and maintaining an effective internal controls, and it is a job of the auditors to evaluate, validate, and report on the design and operating effectiveness of the internal financial controls. Okay, so please remember the demarcation. The management is responsible for implementing, okay, and the auditor is responsible for evaluating or checking. Okay, that's the difference. No one can say that the auditor is responsible for implementing the financial controls. Then there is a guidance note on audit on internal control or internal financial controls over financial reporting, which is issued by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, which provides a framework that auditors should follow to fulfill their responsibility. Okay, then let's proceed. Now, what do you mean by data analytics for audit? Can anyone tell me what do you mean by data analytics for audit? Now, data analytics for audit means you need to analyze the data that is being processed by these systems or IT systems for the purpose of the audit. In today's digital age, when companies rely on more and more on IT systems and networks to operate business, the amount of data and information that exists in these systems is enormous. Okay, all of us will agree that as and when the businesses are growing, the entities are expanding, more and more reliance is being placed on IT systems and networks to operate business. So many times sitting here in Bangalore, you can access system that is somewhere in the US. Okay, it could be through a cloud network, it could be through a server or whatever, but this is all due to technology. And please remember, the amount of information is also increasing. The day is not far when information will be the most valuable asset of a company. A famous businessman recently said, data is the new oil. Very true. Okay, so data is as important as oil in our daily lives. The combination of processes, tools, and techniques that are used to tap vast amount of electronic data to obtain meaningful information is called data analytics. Okay, let's repeat that. The combination of processes, tools, and techniques that are used to tap vast amounts of electronic data to obtain meaningful information is called data analytics. So data analytics simply means it refers to all the processes and tools and techniques that are used to get hold of the vast amount of electronic data to obtain meaningful information is data analytics. Now, can anyone tell me the difference between information and data? Now, data means raw, unorganized, unmeaningful data. Now, to make meaning out of the data, it needs to be organized into something called as information. So, data when organized into something meaningful is known as information. So, data analytics is all about the processes, tools, and techniques through which a large amount of data can be captured. From electronic data can be captured to obtain meaningful information is called data analytics. While it is true that companies can benefit immensely from the use of data analytics in terms of increased profitability, better customer service, gaining competitive advantage, more efficient operations, etc. Even auditors can make use of similar tools and techniques in the audit processes and obtain good results. The tools and techniques that auditors use in applying the principles of data analytics are known as computer assisted audit techniques, CAAT, or yeah, in short. Okay, so now what are the various tools that auditors use in applying the principles of data analytics are known as computer assisted auditing techniques, or CAATs in short. Okay, so if the auditors actually need to test the systems as well, they need to use the systems to test the systems. It is not possible to do it manually, and this is done through something known as computer assisted auditing techniques, or CAATs in short. Okay, please take about 2 minutes, go through this. Any questions, please ask me. Any questions, please ask. Let me know once you're done, please. Any questions, please ask. Take about a minute more. Let me know once you're done, please. Are we done? Can I get a response? Are we done? Okay, let me know once you're done, please. Okay. Data analytics can be used in testing of electronic records and data residing in IT systems using spreadsheets and specialized audit tools. That is IDEA and ACL to perform the following. So IDEA and ACL are two specialized audit tools. These tools can be used to test the testing of electronic records and data that is residing into the IT systems. That is to check how they are processed and whether they are rightly processed. Now, IDEA and ACL perform the following. They check the completeness of the data and population that is used in either test of controls or substantive audit tests. They help in selection of audit samples, that is random sampling, systematic sampling. They help in recomputation of balances, reconstruction of trial balance from the transaction data. So whatever data has been entered into the IT systems is entered into the IDEA and ACL, which help in recomputation of balances, reconstruction of the trial balance from the transaction data, to see that the client's IT systems are giving out the same data, because then this is the important term, recomputation. Reperformance of mathematical calculation like depreciation, bank interest calculation. Now please remember, in the IT systems of the client, you need to enter the asset class, the depreciation rate that is applicable to it, and then it does an automatic calculation. And also same for bank interest. You need to just put the interest rate and the frequency of interest payout. Then the system will do the automatic calculation. The same data can be put into IDEA and ACL, which will help in reperformance of the mathematical calculations like depreciation and the bank interest calculation. And the results can be checked with the results given out by the IT systems of the client to find out if they are operating properly. Then, analysis of journal entries as required by SA 240, fraud investigation, evaluation of impact, evaluating impact of control deficiency. So basically the IDEA and ACL are basically tools that help evaluating the data and records residing in the IT systems using spreadsheets and specialized audit tools like IDEA and IACL to perform the following functions. So ACL and IDEA will help the auditor in the following. Firstly, check completeness of data and population that is used in either test of controls or substantive tests. Selection of audit samples. So basically the auditor will want to select a sample, right, whenever he wants to do a control testing or a substantive testing. So basically these tools will help him in selection of the audit samples. Then these tools will help him in recomputation of balances, that is reconstruction of trial balance from the transaction data, reperformance of mathematical calculations, that is depreciation and bank interest, analysis of journal entries as required by SA 240, fraud investigation, and evaluating the impact of control deficiencies, if any. So these tools will also identify if there are control deficiencies and what is the impact it will have on the financial reporting of the enterprise. Please take 2 minutes, go through this. Any questions, please ask. Any questions, please ask. Any questions, please ask me. Please take a minute more, go through this carefully. Any questions, please ask me. Let me know once you're done, please. Please take about 30 seconds more. Any questions? Any questions, please ask. Please take about a minute more. Are we done? I want you to carefully go through this. Okay, now let's look at assess and report audit findings. Now, what have we done? Now we've done the control testing, the internal control testing and everything. And now we need to assess and report the audit findings. What have we found out in the IT controls assessment? At the conclusion of each audit, it is possible that there will be certain findings or exceptions in IT environment and IT controls of the company that need to be assessed and reported to the relevant stakeholders, including management and those charged with governance, that is board of directors, audit committee, and students may refer SA 260 revised with communication with those charged with governance or more details. So after each assessment of controls procedure, it is always possible that there are certain deficiencies that are identified in the IT environment and IT controls of the company. So the auditor should communicate them to the relevant stakeholders, including management and those uh, charged with governance, that is the board of directors, audit committee, in case the company has an audit committee. Now, some points to consider are as follows. Now, the auditor needs to consider these points. Are there any weaknesses in the IT controls based on his IT controls assessment? If based on the work of the auditor thinks that there are some weaknesses in the IT controls, he should document it properly and report these matters to the relevant stakeholders. Then he should also see what is the impact of these weaknesses in the overall audit. If the impact of the weaknesses in the internal controls on the overall audit is very minuscule or not affecting anything materially, then the auditor can decide to ignore it and go on with his audit processes. Report deficiencies to the management. Now, whatever weaknesses and deficiencies he notices in the management, in the IT controls, he has to communicate the same to the management through internal controls memo or a management letter. Then he has to communicate in writing any significant deficiencies to those charged with the governance. Not only with the management, but also if there are any significant deficiencies that is noted in the IT controls, he has to communicate the same to those charged with governance. Okay, the auditor needs to assess each finding or exception to determine impact on the audit and evaluate if the exception results in deficiency in internal control. Now he should also refer to it in a flow chart to see what are the various processes in the IT system and where are the errors happening. Okay, and that approach and thought process is the same when auditing in an automated environment or when auditing in more manual environment. Okay, so now he's done the control checking just like you would have done the control checking in a manual environment. And if there are any deficiencies or major deficiencies, he should communicate the same to the people charged with governance or the management of the company. Please take 2 minutes, go through this. Any questions, please ask. Please take 2 minutes. Any questions, please ask me. Let me know once you're done, please. Take another minute. Go through this. Any questions, please ask me. Okay, are we done? Okay, now a deficiency in internal control exists if a control is designed, implemented, or operated in such a way that it is unable to prevent or detect and correct misstatements in the financial statements on a timely basis, or the control is missing. So, control is said to be deficient or is said to be inefficient when the particular control is designed in such a way that it is unable to prevent, detect, and correct misstatements in the financial statements on a timely basis, or the control itself is missing. In both the cases, we can say that there is a deficiency in the internal control or the internal control itself is missing. Evaluation and assessment of audit findings and control deficiencies involves applying professional judgment that include considerations for quantitative and qualitative measures. Each finding should be looked at individually and in aggregate by combining with other deficiencies. So basically, the auditor should use his judgment whenever he encounters deficiencies or missing controls in an organization. He should evaluate their impact in isolation as well as with deficiencies and shortcomings of the other controls on the total financial statements of the entity, and then take a call as to how will it impact. And then accordingly, he has to change his auditing procedures. Okay, now the illustration is not here, but it may be on the next page. Okay, So please take about 30 seconds, go through this. Any questions, please ask me. Okay, then now report audit findings and illustrations. Okay, password resets should be support with proper requests. So whenever there is any person who's accessing an IT system or an IT application and he is making a request for he's making a password reset, it should be supported with proper request. The person who's managing the entire IT application should know that someone is making a password reset request. Observation: as per the information security policy, user access changes should be initiated and approved. However, we observe that there is no formal process being followed for password reset. Now just imagine if any person who's been given access and who's been given a password changes the password without the system admin or the organization knowing about it. Then later, if he blocks the access, how will anyone access the system? So that is why there is no formal process being followed for password reset in SAP. Password reset requests are presently communicated over phone and there is no supporting documentation being maintained for password reset request. Basically, there should be some documentation that leaves a trail that who has requested for the password reset, why, what is the reason, and then at least in future you will know that this gentleman had asked for a password reset request, and if anything goes wrong, he can be held accountable for them. Exposure. Passwords of user IDs with critical privileges may be reset and misused. Like I told you, you could block the entire system. Non-compliance with information security policy. Now, recommendation: it is recommended that all password resets should be requested through a formal process. Adequate supporting documentation should be maintained for user changes in SAP, including including password requests and reviewed periodically. So basically, what is the recommendation that has been given by the auditor? That it is recommended that all password requests should be requested through a formal process. That means either a mail or something where it is documented. Adequate supporting documentation should be maintained for user changes in SAP, including password resets and reviewed periodically. Okay, so this is one example of how deficiencies in the IT environment are reported and addressed. Please take 2 minutes, go through this. Any questions, please ask. Any questions, please ask me. Any questions, please ask me. Take another minute. Let me know once you're done, please. Okay, take about 30 seconds more. Let me know once you're done. Are we done? Okay, now let's do a little bit of things about fraud. Okay, a little bit was left over yesterday, so let's continue with that. Okay, now what do you mean by fraud? The standard of auditing. What do you mean by fraud? The standards on auditing SA 240, the auditor's responsibility relating to fraud in an audit of financial statements define the term fraud as an intentional act done by one or more individuals among management, those charged with governance, employees or third parties involving the use of deception to obtain an unjust or illegal advantage. So basically the fraud means any act which is done with the intent of cheating someone or to obtain an unjust or illegal advantage. So an auditor's procedures should also cover steps of procedures that could unearth fraud. But if it is a very deep-rooted fraud that involves the management and the employees, then it is not possible for the auditor to catch hold of the same. Although fraud is a broad legal concept for the purposes of the standards on auditing, the auditor is concerned with fraud that causes a material misstatement in the financial statements. Okay, because the auditor is auditing only the financial statements to express an opinion on the same, he is concerned with fraud that causes a material misstatement in the financial statements. But this does not mean that during the course of this audit, if he comes to know about any fraud that is not affecting the financial statements, he does not inform the management about it. He will inform the management about it that he has noticed a fraud in his assignment. There are two types of intentional misstatements are relevant to the auditor. Now, what are the two types of misstatements? The misstatements resulting from fraudulent financial reporting. That means reporting certain balances when they are actually not there. Like what happened in the case of Satyam. They reported huge cash balances and cash and bank balances, but actually those were not there. And misstatements resulting from misappropriation of assets. So, and the second type of misstatements would be from misappropriation of assets. That means there would be certain assets that have been embezzled, or they do not exist, or they have been stolen. So regarding that, there are misstatements. So there are two kinds of misstatements. Misstatements resulting from fraudulent financial reporting something that is not there, and misstatements resulting from misappropriation of assets, not reporting something that is there. Although the auditor may suspect or in rare cases identify the occurrence of fraud, the auditor does not make legal determinants of whether fraud has actually occurred. Okay, so like we said, the main purpose of the auditor is not to catch hold of the fraud. He's not doing an investigation, but he's only just examining the financial statements in order to give a view about the truth and fairness of the affairs of the company as well as the financial position of the company on a given date. Please take 2 minutes, go through this. Any questions, please ask. Any questions, please ask. Let me know once you're done, please. Are we done? Okay. Now, what are the characteristics of fraud? The first characteristic is it is intentional, and fraud is a broad legal concept. Okay, so anything done with the intent of deceiving something or cheating someone is known as fraud. Misstatements in the financial statements can arise from either fraud or error. The distinguishing factor between fraud and error is whether an underlying action that results in the misstatement of the financial statements is intentional or not. Okay, so it could be an error or it could be a fraud. So the basic underlying difference between an error and a fraud is that an error is happened unintentionally, whereas a fraud is done with the intentional intent of deceiving someone or cheating someone. That's the main difference between a fraud and an error. So basic characteristics of fraud is a fraud is intentional. Fraud is a broader legal concept. The auditor is concerned with fraud that causes a material misstatements in the financial statements only. Because the auditor is auditing the financial statements, he is only concerned with that fraud that causes a material misstatement in the financial statements. Frauds, whether fraudulent financial reporting or misappropriation of assets, involves incentive or pressure to commit a fraud, a perceived opportunity to do so, and some rationalization of the act. Please remember, anyone who commits a fraud does it for a purpose. Either it is his self-gain, or there is an ulterior motive that he does not want the company to do well, or it includes some incentive or pressure to commit the fraud. Okay, so these are the basic characteristics of fraud. Please take 30 seconds, go through this. Any question, please ask. Any questions you may have, please ask me. Let me know once you're done, please. Are we done? Any questions? Okay. Now, for example, the incentive or pressure to commit fraudulent financial reporting may exist when management is under pressure from sources outside or inside the entity to achieve an expected and perhaps unrealistic earnings target or financial outcome. Okay, now this is a very realistic thing that is said. Now, whenever there are, let's say, in a normal situation, when there are investors in a company, they invest money into the company, right? And obviously, when the investors have invested money into the company, they are looking for results. So when the company wanted the investments, it is very normal for the company to make very ambitious goals, that if you give us the investment, we will make this amount of profit, this amount of revenue. So once the investment comes in, the company is under constant pressure that the investor has put in so many crores of rupees, and if we do not perform, he's going to, he's not going to like it. He's not going to support us. So that is one incentive which is always there to commit a fraud, that a lot of times the companies think, oh, the investors have come, they're sitting on our head, so let's just report whatever the investor wants. Let's try to adjust the numbers, do something and report it. So that is the incentive that normally occurs when management is under pressure from sources outside or inside the entity to achieve as expected and perhaps unrealistic earnings target or financial outcome. One such situation is when there is an investor sitting on your head. Next thing is when you have committed to the board of directors that this year you are going to commit these numbers, and when the actual numbers come, it is nowhere close to what you've committed, then that becomes an incentive again to commit a fraud. Okay, a perceived opportunity to commit fraud may exist when an individual believes internal control can be overridden. For example, because the individual is in a position of trust or has taken knowledge of specific deficiencies in the internal control. Now, please remember, normally your frauds or whatever are conducted by people within the organization most of the time, because either they are people of trust, that no one is going to trust that they have done something wrong, or they have knowledge of specific deficiencies in the internal control which other people don't have. Okay, there were a few cases that happened in the past. If you have read the papers and other things, in Bangalore itself, there were a few cases where the corporate controllers or the financial controllers of those companies made some major frauds resulting to 40 crores and about 60 crores. That's a different thing that they are behind bars right now, but this happened in Bangalore in the last 1 or 2 years. So there again, those were people who were of trusted positions or who had knowledge of specific deficiencies in the internal control. Okay, so these are the people normally who will commit the fraud, because the other people neither will have the knowledge and neither will have the confidence to do so. Individuals may be able to rationalize committing a fraudulent act. Some individuals possess an attitude, character, or set of ethical values that allow them knowingly and intentionally to commit a dishonest act. However, even otherwise, honest individuals can commit fraud in an environment that imposes sufficient pressure on them. Please remember, a pressurizing environment or a negative environment will put undue pressure on a person to commit a fraud, but it also comes from one's individual's ethics or values, that whether they want to commit a fraud or not. So it's a very subjective thing. Please take 2 minutes, go through this. Any questions, please ask. Any questions? Please ask me. Please take another minute. Carefully go through this. Any questions? Please ask me. Okay, just give me a minute. I'll be back. Okay, let's proceed. Okay, now fraudulent financial reporting involves intentional misstatements, including omissions of amounts or disclosures in financial statements to deceive financial statement users. Okay, fraudulent financial reporting may be accompanied by the following, which includes manipulation, falsification, including forgery or alteration of accounting records, or supporting documentation from which the financial statements are prepared. So basically, your fraudulent activities could include manipulation, falsification, including forgery, or alteration of accounting records, or supporting documentation from which the financial statements are recorded. So all these activities could result in fraudulent activities. Okay, manipulation of accounts. What do you mean by manipulation of accounts? Detection of manipulation of accounts with a view to presenting a false state of affairs is a task requiring great tact and intelligence, because generally management personnel and higher management cadre are associated with this type of fraud, and this is perpetrated in a methodical way. This type of fraud is generally committed. Okay, so normally a manipulation of accounts is done when the top management is involved in it. It cannot be done without their collusion with the junior management. Okay, the junior management alone will not have so much of courage to do a manipulation of accounts. Okay, please take 2 minutes, go through this. Any questions, please ask. Okay, any questions, please ask me. Take a minute. Take another minute, please. Any questions, please? Okay, now, this type of fraud is generally committed to avoid incidents of income tax or other cases or other taxes, for declaring a dividend when there are insufficient profits, to withhold declaration of dividend even when there is adequate profit. This is often done to manipulate the value of shares in stock market to make it possible for selected persons to acquire shares at a lower cost, and for receiving higher remuneration where managerial remuneration is payable by reference to profits. So basically, these are the motives and the incentives that someone gets to do a manipulation of accounts. That is to avoid incidents of income tax or other taxes, for declaring a dividend when there are insufficient profits, to withhold declaration of dividend even when there is adequate profits. This is often done to manipulate the value of shares in the stock market to make it possible for selected persons to acquire shares at a lower cost, and for receiving higher remuneration where managerial remuneration is payable by reference to profits. There are numerous ways of committing this type of fraud. Some of the methods are given below. Inflating or suppressing purchases and expenses. So what you can do, you can inflate your purchases and expenses, or you can suppress them in order to reduce or increase the profits or losses. Inflating and suppressing the sales. Similarly, like for expenses and purchase, you can increase or decrease your sales to affect your profit number. Inflating or deflating the value of closing inventory. Now please remember, closing inventory, if you increase it, your profit goes up. If closing inventory, the value comes down, your profit comes down. Failing to adjust outstanding liabilities or prepaid expenses, and charging items of capital expenditure to revenue or by capitalizing revenue expenses. So these are the way in which you can manipulate the accounts according to your convenience. Please take a minute, go through this. Any questions, please ask. Any questions, please ask me. Any questions, please ask me. Take about a minute more. Any questions, please ask. Are we done? Okay. Fraudulent financial reporting always involves management override of controls and otherwise may appear to be operating efficiently. Okay, so please remember, frauds have to be done with a management collusion. It cannot be done without the involvement of the internal management. Fraud can be committed by management overriding controls using techniques such as recording fictitious journal entries, particularly close to the end of the accounting period, to manipulate the operating results or achieve other objectives, inappropriately adjusting assumptions and changing judgments used to estimate account balances, omitting, advancing, or delaying recognition in the financial statements of events and transactions that have occurred during the reporting period, concealing or not disclosing facts that could affect the amount recorded in the financial statements, engaging in complex transactions that are structured to misrepresent the financial positions or financial performance of the entity, altering records and terms related to significant and unusual transactions. So these are ways in which the management could commit a fraud in the company. Okay, please take a minute, go through this, and then we proceed. Any questions, please ask. Any questions? Any questions? Please ask me. Okay, in case you have no questions, we will be ending this session with this slide. Okay, so we will continue with this tomorrow and with some new topics tomorrow. And I'd like to thank you for your patient listening and being a wonderful audience. So please do not forget to use the code Prathik when you're making a Plus subscription to get an instant discount of 10% on the listed price. And come, let's crack CA exams with Unacademy, India's largest online learning platform that provides to you a world of courses, resources, content, live and recorded sessions to help you in your preparation for the CA Foundation and Intermediate examinations by providing top educators, quality content, and overall a great learning experience. So come, let's crack CA exams with Unacademy. Thank you so much for being a wonderful audience. It was a pleasure to take this session, and I will see you tomorrow morning with some more interesting and new sessions. Thank you so much, and